Hi, I'm Kathryn Garcia. I'm running to be New York City's next mayor. We have to have climate change and our policies coordinated. So, whether or not we're talking about transportation or we're talking about housing, we're talking about climate change. That means that we need to ensure that Local Law 97 is actually implemented and that we are not focused on fines or fees, but on helping people actually achieve the goal of decarbonizing our economy. We know that that means we need to bring more renewable power into this city, both from Canadian hydro as well as from upstate. Solar, wind, geothermal all have to be part of the mix. But we know that there are many communities, particularly of color, that have been overburdened by environmental nuisances or toxins. This can range from anything from lead poisoning to poor air quality. So when I'm mayor, we need to make sure that there is a Green New Deal for NYCHA, that they have the funding to ensure that they are investing in geothermal and in heat pumps. So not only do they have heat and hot water, but also that they have air conditioning in those units. It's got to be an all-in process, not an either or. But we need to make sure we're electrifying our school buses and that we are electrifying our school fleet, that we are actually making it possible to have more public chargers, that we are also incentivizing people to, at their homes, invest in having an electrical vehicle as well as in having a charger on their property. This is a real opportunity to reimagine the public realm and put the public back at the forefront of it. We're going to have to balance all of these uses, whether or not it's open restaurants, spaces for culture. But when it comes to transportation, we have to think creatively about a multimodal system where you can take your city bike to the bus stop or you take the bus to the train. That there is a one swipe pass and we are making it easy and efficient for you to get around. We know that New Yorkers are all about time, and time is money in this city. So the more that we are giving buses and bikes priority, the better we are. We've got to use technology to make it so when a bus arrives at a corner, that it is turning that light green and they are moving swiftly. But as I've said, we have to electrify our school buses and we have to electrify our entire city fleet. This is going to mean investments in infrastructure to ensure that we have the power at our facilities to charge them. I'm committed to getting that done. One of the things that we saw during the pandemic is how critical our parks were to not only our physical health, but also to our mental health, to a place where we could do yoga or meet our friends for cocktails or be able to just read a book. They were our living rooms in a way that they have never been before, and we have to think of parks as infrastructure. When I'm mayor, I will increase the budget for parks to 1% of the total budget by the end of my first term. But we need to invest in parks and communities that don't have them. And that is why I will make sure that we are investing 10 new parks in these communities, but also creating green boulevards between our green spaces so that we have the opportunity to clean our air and ensure that people are connected to their green spaces. But we also need to maximize some of the space we have that's underutilized. At many NYCHA developments, there are large pieces of green space that have fences all the way around them. And we know that those could be converted into space that is really usable for the residents, but also for the community, and integrate those developments into the overall community. We know that the third of our waste comes from food and yard waste. We have to bring back the composting program and ensure that it is at everybody's doorstep, as well as in every big building, it's going to have to be mandatory. But we also need to have community compost facilities in all 5 boroughs. And I've committed to a renewable Rikers, so not only for renewable power, but also to have a place to make compost so that we can return it to all of our green spaces. I believe that we can get to zero waste, and I am absolutely the person to do it. But we're also going to have to take on the political challenge and bring back Save As You Throw. As we think about reimagining our city, we know that there are places that have been burdened, whether it was waste transfer stations or power plants, with real negative aspects of what we all need to actually be here in the city of New York. When we think about what we are citing, we need to ensure that we are not citing them in neighborhoods that are already overburdened. I've done this in the past by reducing the permits for waste transfer stations, but as we think about the future, it's also about reinvestment. This is where we need to ensure that there is money for parks, that there are new green spaces in these locations. Many of them are actually near water bodies and are an opportunity for us to gain real access back to our waterfront. I envision that we would be investing our money in schoolyards that are currently asphalt and turning them into green spaces with a priority on those neighborhoods that have been harmed by our environmental justice issues. New York City actually has the benefit of some of the strongest lead laws in the nation. We just aren't using them. Agencies have to work together and collaborate. We need to ensure that every vacant apartment is completely abated for lead. We need to do spot checks of other apartments, particularly where we have landlords that over and over again have a child poisoned by lead. We know where the bad actors are. We need to focus our resources on those. But we also need to make sure we are getting the message out to parents that they need their children tested for lead. So if they have been exposed, they can get the services they need to be healthy and protected. As we think about a green New York City, we know that that is going to transition many things. Our heating systems, our hot water systems, training people now, particularly our young people, on how to care for these systems and how to design them will make it so we have a more equitable and a greener New York. I intend to make sure that we are utilizing our CUNY system as well as our trade schools. We need to make sure they have the skill set to take care of these motors and inverters and everything else that comes along with the green economy. And we also need to make sure that they are part of it because we want them to have these middle class jobs. So Prospect Park is my favorite park. I grew up not too far from there, and I have some lovely members occasionally of grabbing a 40. Not that that was ever allowed, but under the cover of darkness. The R train, it is slow but steady. I do, and I have a particular favorite reusable bag, which would be, I don't know, mine, the 0x30 bag, which I always am thrilled to see. I love the fact that it's orange because it's easy to spot. And I do like the stainless steel water bottles over the plastic. It keeps it cold. I do compost at home, but it is very frustrating to not be able to put meat or dairy into my compost because that seems to attract some critters and make it not a healthy mix, shall we say. Ooh, I like to bike down along the Brooklyn shoreline to Coney Island. You just got to make sure you do it early on the boardwalk before it isn't allowed when there are too many beachgoers.